Welcome back to the channel. We're back on our Baldur's Gate Commander deck profile. Today with Karlach, Fury of Avernus. For 4 and a red, you get a 5/4, where you get an extra combat phase each turn, and then you get Raised by Giants as a background, as she is allowed to have a background to give that secondary color. As it was for Baldur's Gate's commanders, commander creatures you own have base power toughness 10/10, so by being able to swing in with her twice, we'll be able to swing in for 10 damage twice. That's 20 damage. We're only one short of that commander damage. Thankfully, with this deck, we're also running a whole bunch of ways to buff that stat line even more. Ways to make sure we give her trample, to make sure that damage is getting through. Ways to make sure we have other creatures that'll be attacking our opponents left and right and left, to make sure we're dealing a lot of damage right to their face in order to have ways to win the game. But that's just a general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have Lightning Grease. We want to make sure Karlach can attack the turn she comes down. It's almost whenever you attack. It doesn't necessarily have to be Karlach attacking, but we tend to want to attack with her, especially when she's a 10/10. But this will help us do just that, making sure we can swing in for that 20 damage the turn she comes down, rather than having to wait. Mage Slayer. Equipped creature attacks, deals damage to its power to the player or planeswalkers attacking, so even if we don't get to deal that commander damage, still dealing 10 damage straight to our opponent's face is going to be pretty useful. Swiftfoot Boots to do the same exact thing that we're doing with Lightning Greaves, giving our creatures haste. Well, really just Karlach haste. Fire Crystal, another way to give Karlach haste, a little bit of cost reduction while we're at it. Maybe a copy of some other good creatures that we have in here that we want a copy of while we're at it. But overall, really helpful for this deck. I just realized we forgot Soul Ring for this deck. Reaver Cleaver, equipped creatures +1/+1 has trample. That puts Karlach at 22 damage to your opponent's face now. Unless they have something to block it with. Whenever this creature deals not block her with. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, create that many treasure tokens. That's going to be a lot of treasure tokens, especially if we're dealing 10 damage at a time, or 11 damage at a time. That's 11 treasure tokens, potentially allow us to go infinite with some cards we'll get into in a little bit. Well, really right up there, if you could read that. But we'll skip right past that for now. Undrag, the Quake Mole for 2, a red and a green. Becomes blocked on tap of each creature you control. After its combat phase and additional combat phase, you don't get an extra main phase in between, so you don't get time to cast any additional spells that aren't like instants. But you could pay 7 mana as well to make sure Andrag is blocked. It's just a really good ability, getting us even more extra combat spells. This way, even if we did only deal 20 with Karlach, let's get an extra combat phase and deal 30. Who needs to stop at 21? Beast Whisperer, we have a lot of creature spells in this deck. Karlach's a creature herself, so that draw power will be helpful. Birds of Paradise, Karlach herself is 5 mana, Raised by Giants 6 mana, so we want to make sure there's some mana dorks in here to help with that as well. Combat Celebrant has been exerted, turn may exert them, and then you get an extra combat phase. Once again, we have quite a few ways to give ourselves some extra combat phases. This way Karlach can keep attacking, keep on dealing that damage. Enduring Courage, that would give Karlach that haste to make sure she can attack the turn she comes down, or our other creatures can attack the turn they come down for those extra combat phases. And just +2/+0, along with that, helps Karlach get that commander damage win. Tali, Primal Conqueror, speaking of creatures we wouldn't mind creating copies of with Fire Crystal. Enters battlefield, each player exiles cards on the top of the library until the exile non-land card, make cast it for free. Taking the best thing off our opponent decks is going to be pretty fun. And then we could make it into an 11 level trample indestructible, and in fact, essentially. But overall, if we get some extra combat phases, that's going to be the end of at least one person, maybe multiple people if they don't have those blockers up. Atali, Primal Storm, not as good as other Atali, but still a really good card. Exile top card of each player's library. May cast those spells without paying their mana cost. That's whenever Atali attacks, so by taking these extra combat phases, that's going to be a lot of spells we're going to be getting for free. Fanatic of Avernus, you get 1 green mana or you get 4 green mana. With this deck, you're going to tend to get the 4 green mana, because we have quite a few powerful creatures. You can also internalize them to make them into a 4/4. That's kind of cool. Goblin and Necromancer for a little bit of cost reduction there. Gorklar, Tower Kalsisma, creatures you control with power 4 greater, cost 2 less to cast. That's most of our creatures. That's a really good cost reduction spell. And then they could also get Trample and +1/+1, giving Karlach that 22 that we're going to be dealing to our opponent rather than just a 20. And also that trample to make sure we're actually dealing any damage rather than just swinging a wet noodle at our opponent. Helena and Elena, partners, first strike, reach at the beginning of combat on your turn. Put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control where X is Helena and Elena's power. That creature also gains haste on a turn. Another way to give Karlach haste, never get her stat line above that 20. To make sure we're dealing a lot of damage. Also, this is at the beginning of combat, so if we're taking multiple combats, that's multiple times we get to do that per turn. Hellkite Charger, whenever Hellkite Charger attacks, you may pay 7. If you do, untap all attacking creatures at their phase, their special combat phase. Potential Reaver Cleaver, this does go infinite if you do get enough Charger tokens off the first hit. You do need to have like the 7 mana first and then get them from Reaver Cleaver, because this is on attack, whereas Reaver Cleaver is on damage. It's just something to keep note of. So you do it on your second combat, then you get third, fourth, fifth, keep on going. Jumbo Cactar, speaking of strong creatures, we got a 1/7, that's it. We don't need to read the rest of him getting plus 9,999, making him into 10,007 that we get to swing in multiple times with trample. Just fun things like that. Maybe we just fling him at our opponent's face with some other cards that we'll get to in a little bit. Who knows? We'll get there. Kedis Emberclaw Familiar. Whenever a commander you control deals common damage to an opponent, deals that much damage to each opponent. We're trying to deal a lot of damage to one opponent, so we'll deal commander damage to that one opponent, finish them off. Hopefully that's enough to also just spread that damage around and finish off everyone else. It doesn't count for the commander damage. Thank you for the person who pointed out in the video. I really appreciate that, because I was getting that wrong for quite a bit. Llanowar Elves for Mana Dork, Morag, Fury of Akum. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it's attacked this turn. Potentially, just those 2 combat phases we're getting with Karlach. That's 21 damage there, potentially. But also, getting us even more combat phases anytime a land enters. We're in green. We're going to have plenty of lands entering. This is potentially game. Aura and Frostfang. Attacking creatures you control of Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control deals common damage to a player, draw a card. We're drawing plenty of cards. Thankfully, with this as well, the way that Trample and Death Touch work is that if you have both, you get to deal 1 damage to a creature. The rest gets dealt to your opponent's face. Port Razor for some extra combat phases. We've seen it. We'd like to do it. Ruby Daring Tracker for another Mana Dork. Sakura Tribe Elder to sacrifice himself to go get some lands. This is where we get our big spells. We have a lot of big spells, and we want to see them. Savage Ventmaw. Whenever Savage Ventmaw attacks, get 3 red, 3 green. Till in turn, you don't lose mana. Steps and phases end. Potentially getting you enough for your Hellkite Charger. Nope, you're 1 short, actually. But, who knows? Maybe you'll just have that 1 mana sitting around, get the extra combat phase. You do it again, and again, and again, and keep on going. Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. You're going to tend to have the strongest creatures, so you can get that X mana, where X is a creature's power. Even if you just have Selvala, that's 1 extra mana that you're getting already, just by cycling a green Druid. And some draw power while you're at it. Sorkin Garclaw, give your creatures trample, make sure you can deal a common damage to your opponent, rather than just poking them. Toski, Bear Secrets, Indestructible. Attacks each combat fable. Keep on attacking. Whenever a creature control deals common damage to player, draw a card. We're trying to deal a lot of damage to all of our opponents, so may as well draw a card for each of them. Also, this is whenever a creatures, not one for 1 or more creatures, so you get to do it for each of your creatures. Xenagos, God of Revels, I just that wasn't me lagging, by the way. That was just my brain lagging as I was talking. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and +X/+X until end of turn. That doesn't just count until end combat. That's until end of turn. So you get it, then you get it again and again and again for each combat you get. Similar to Zipantral, beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control, potentially doubling Xenagos again, giving Xenagos his power to another creature. Well, that's if Xenagos is a creature. He's not always a creature. He has the devotions red and green. But overall, really good abilities we're getting there. Aggravated Assault, untap all creatures you control, extra combat phase, 5 mana to do that. Not bad value on that at all. We have plenty of ways to get treasure tokens to make sure we do that. We're in green, so we have plenty of ways to get lands to do that. Super fun ability. Bear Umbra. A little bit of protection there on Karlach. Whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. Potentially this plus aggravated assault. That's enough for the infinite combats. Colossal Majesty. We're going to be getting creatures power 4 greater. That meaning we get to draw an extra card during each upkeep. Karlach's Uprising. Some more draw power. Some more ways to give our creatures that trample. Gratuitous Violence. Whenever creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, double that damage instead. We're already trying to deal 20 damage to each of our opponents. Let's deal 40 instead. Who says we have to stop at 20? Guardian Project for a little bit of extra draw power. Or in the wild, another way to give Karlach haste. Or if she already has haste, give her a way to get that +1/+1 counter. Also, just really nice to not have our creature spells countered. Yeah, benefiting us a lot off that. Rising a Day, some more stats, some more haste. Dickets in the Dicket, give your creatures +X/+X, where X is their power, and then you get to draw 2 cards if you have the strongest creature, which, we're going to tend to. Unnatural Growth, keep doubling our creature's power, double it with Unnatural Growth, double it with Zapandrel, double it again with Dickets in the Dicket. Really good abilities we're getting there for a lot of damage straight to our opponent's face, as long as we have trample on that, we're not just being blocked by 1/1s. And we have Beast Within for... Oh, sorry, let me actually scroll over before I forget to do that. There we go. I gotta start remembering to do it on the enchantments. Beast Within for some removal. Entis Restoration. We're gonna get the 3 lands. We're gonna have the powerful creature. We like to see it. Great Train Heist for an extra combat. Heroic Intervention for some protection. Return to the Wild Speaker. That's gonna be a lot of draw power. Savage Beating. Extra combat phase or double strike. One of those is gonna be nice. Tamio Safekeeping. A little bit of layer protection there. Two-handed axe, either double our power or double strike. Either one, we'd like to see it. Tyvar Stand, +X/+X, for a little bit of protection while we're at it. I don't think anything too special in the lands. I think we just have like some... Oh, I guess like Wolf Run's really fun. These are creatures trample. And for our sorcerers, we have Cultivate for some ramp, Farseek for some ramp, Kodama's Reach for some ramp, Nature's Lore for some ramp, what's that? 3 Visits for some ramp, and Traverse the Outlands for some ramp. And then on to the other stuff. Full Throttle for some extra combats, Overpowering Attack for some extra combat, Relentless Assault for some extra combat, and Seize the Day for some extra combat. Okay, sorry, I know I'm rushing through those a little bit. But let's go through what else we got here. We got Last March of the Ents for some draw power. Overwhelming Stampede, give our creatures trample and +X/+X, especially if we've already been doubling it like 4 times, give them that +X/+X and trample. Rishkar's Expertise, we could potentially deck ourselves out, which, it would be funny. It is always funny to do. I don't know why I was just get a kick out of doing it. But that's the deck there. If you guys like to see more, make sure you like the video. If you guys like the video, also like the video, and make sure you subscribe so you can stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the day.